doing English 105 and philosophy 110. How did that go, by the way? Not well?
No.
What did the teacher say?
On chapter 4.
Yeah, any feedbacks?
Yeah, it was supposed to do Tuesday, but then he pushed the due date back till today because like he read what the people said and they said, oh, it's not good enough.
Oh.
And then so he took the whole lecture explaining like why this should be done. And like most of the class like still doesn't get it. Like we pretty much wasted an hour for pretty much nothing.
Oh my god.
But I got my chapter 3 back.
Okay.
And I don't know, I'm just trying to find a way to argue why what I think is reasonable and somehow get my points back. So one thing I wanted
already corrected?
Yeah. And this is the correct answer. So one thing that we did is B, number 2, so about the library.
Okay. It says 500 of the 2,000 Cactus County Public Library card holders were randomly selected and asked whether they preferred fiction or nonfiction. 338 said they prefer fiction. Thus, you can bet that most of the Cactus County card holders prefer fiction.
Okay. With this is together. And we came out how like saying how like 500 out of 200, 2,000 is not enough. But they said that 500 is enough.
Really? To be representative of 2,000? Interesting. What's the percentage for 2,000 out of 500 out of 2,000?
1.5%.
Really? That's enough?
No, but that 20 out of 25%, this 338% out of 2,000 is the true one.
And that's still enough to be representative?
They said it's enough to represent.
Huh. Wow.
The book.
That's interesting. You would think that's not enough. Okay. All right. And he says non-deductively successful, right? Let's see. Okay, non-deductive arguments. Maybe we should go back and read this. Okay, non-deductive arguments share some basic characteristics. We illustrate 3 of these with the following non-deductive statistical arguments. 96% of Americans belong to some religious group or other. Shu is an American. Therefore, Shu belongs to some religious group or other. And then there's the second one. 78% of Americans are Christians. Wallace is an American. Therefore, Wallace is a Christian. 55% of Americans do not regularly attend religious services. Mutava is an American, therefore Mutava does not regularly attend religious. Okay, they're not valid even though their premise provides some support for the conclusions. The first general characteristic of non-deductive argument is that they are not meant to be valid, but they are meant to make their conclusions probable or likely. Okay. I see.
So it is non-deductively successful.
Apparently, according to this, yeah, like it makes it probable or likely, which means it doesn't have to be like a huge number of people, but just enough of a sample to kind of show that this might be what it is for the rest of the population.
But that's not enough.
I know, that's not enough, but it says the characteristics of non-deductive argument is for the broad class of arguments that are non-deductive. So, which means, let's see.
So are you saying that this is correct because it's possible that it's representative even though there's a really small chance?
Apparently, according to this book, even though we don't agree with it, it's the book says that this is just meant to, it's not meant to be valid. They're just meant to make their conclusions like look like probable or likely. So which means they can use the very small statistical evidence and then argue for like a bigger thing. But you see that happening in science community a lot. Yeah. I think that's what your teacher meant to point out. But that really doesn't sit very well with me. Yeah, but I guess the book says that's what it is. Second general characteristic of non-deductive arguments: validity is not a matter of degree.
Yes.
Okay? It says, we prefer that premise make conclusion more than just more likely than not. Valid arguments remain valid no matter what new premises are added. The addition of new information in the premise of non-deductive argument may radically alter the overall amount of support. Oh, okay. So if we add something to it, it means that it could possibly change. So non-deductive is, like you said, it's not valid, right? Because 500 is not enough to represent 2,000, right? So because it's so shaky, when you introducing new information, then it's going to change, because this is not a valid argument. It just makes it sound like it could be valid just for the moment. So non-deductive, let's just think of it as like a very shaky argument. It's not meant to be like logically like correct. It's just, it can be changed at any time. It's a shaky argument. Okay.
And why are we practicing shaky arguments? I mean, even though it's like in our minds everybody knows that this is wrong.
I think it's because your teacher wants you to be able to spot these arguments in daily conversations, or like make sure that this doesn't happen.
But these statements are already that weak that you can obviously point it out.
But I mean, it's a practice though, you know? Like it'll get complex as you get more into the course. I think this is just like an introduction, right?
I guess.
Yeah, so he's probably just introducing all these like arguments that you can put a hole in, but you're practicing that. Yeah, some valid argument forms. So you guys are going into more valid argument forms, and then I'm just gonna take a look at casual analysis. Argument by analogy models. Okay, so it seems like as your chapter progresses, you guys are going more into a deeper and deeper complex and more valid arguments, and then you're going to learn how to construct valid arguments. Because if you don't take apart shaky arguments, there's no way that you can take apart more complex ones, right? Okay. So how about we go on to the next one that you had problems with?
So this is because 4, right?
I think it's 16. Okay, what's 16? This one?
8. Yeah, 13 or 4, the power 1/3. And then 2. And you solve this.
Whichever 3, 16. This
Tôi
one.
cảm ơn sự sử dụng bây giờ.
Exercise.
Mình sẽ nói là 4 divided by 4 and then actually I divide by C and then divide by C, then I get 4. C equals.
Some students are hard workers. Okay. And some students get very good grades. That shows that at least some hard workers get very good grades. Okay. And then you said, valid. The word choice some gave some exception that not all hard workers get good grades. As long as there are some, we can be confident that it is not possible for the premise to be true and the conclusion false. Some students are hard workers and some students. Okay. Jenny, would it be possible for you to go up on the board and maybe draw this out for me? Remember the way that we did last time? Because this word some is kind of like vague, so I think we need a visual representation. But if you could do it for me. So some students are hard workers?
Like write the words or like draw pictures?
Whichever works for you. What do you want to do? What do you usually use when you want to?
writing an essay and my age while I'm doing my essay and my thing about ants. My thing is that clean the mess up.
It's the same thing, the same concept.
I don't understand this concept as a whole.
Well, they're both the same thing, right? The one you see is
Okay.
You choose any.
It's like the same thing as saying,
So,
you know, there's two,
Once I get to like this part, I want to.
So now what are we trying to prove?
That if it's invalid or valid.
okay, so what do you think? And we're doing non-deductive, right?
And you plug that in. FX is 6.
I think so. Okay. Let me double check. Valid. Okay, valid or non-valid. Okay, go ahead.
You have different points.
I thought it was valid.
Yeah.
Use those two variables to get further and figure it out.
No, it sounds right. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
it's vague. Some is vague.
Yeah.
So therefore, it doesn't mean the whole population, right?
Yeah.
So it partially happens. If some are hard workers and get good grades,
Mhm.
that means that at least some people. At least it shows that hard workers will get good grades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it exists.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this example, and let me try to read it for you. Some vegetarians are malnourished. All malnourished people need vitamin supplements. Some vegetarians need vitamin supplements. And then it says, we can assure ourselves that there are no circumstances in which the premise are true, and the conclusion false by imagining certain possibilities. Suppose the first premise is true because there are 3 malnourished vegetarians. For the second premise to be true, each of those 3, being malnourished, must need vitamin supplements. Thus we have 3 vegetarians who need vitamin supplements, and the conclusion is true. Since the reasoning would be the same no matter how many malnourished vegetarians there might be, as long as there are some, we can be confident that it is not possible for the premise to be true, and the conclusion is false. Okay. Okay, and then you said your argument was that it was valid, right? Mm-hmm. And your teacher said it was wrong? Invalid, okay.
Yeah, there. You know what? When you do one side, you do times something.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I got confused with the fraction part then.
Yeah. So each fraction.
It says invalid. The hard-working students may get bad grades, and the good grades may go to the ideal. But that sounded kind of sounded like mine, except it's the opposite way of arguing.
Oh, okay. Invalid. The hardworking students may get bad grades, and good grades may go to.
I don't understand this.
Okay. Yeah. So some students are hard workers, and some students get very good grades. This shows that at least some hard workers get very good grades. At least some. Hard-working students may get bad grades. Huh. That's very tricky. Because it sounds right, because it's like some. I mean, you're not saying all are going to get bad grades. So, okay. Some vegetarians are malnourished, and all malnourished people need vitamin supplies. Okay, so maybe the problem is that there's some in both information. If you said some students are hard workers, and then, or maybe you said all students are hard workers and some students get very good grades.
And that's a different story.
Yeah, then that's a different story. Yeah, because here it's a different story like that. It's like one is all and the other one is some. So what do they say? Checking validity. Okay. So possibly. That one's really difficult because I kind of agree with you. I don't see how that's so different. Okay, valid argument is one in which there is no possible way for the premises to be true and the conclusion false at the same time. If all of its premises are true, the conclusion would have to be true. Thus, the truth of the premise of a valid argument completely guarantees the truth of the conclusion. Okay. Some students are hard workers, and some students get very good grades. That shows that at least some hard workers get very good grades. Man, but it sounds really true, though. Like what you just said?
At least.
Yeah, it says at least some hard workers get very good grades. Has to be, because some students are hard workers and some students get very good grades. So there's...
Like, what are the other factors that make this invalid?
I mean, I suppose some idle students can get good grades, but that's very, like, unlikely, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can, like, someone who doesn't even attend class get good grade? I mean, maybe if they're, like, geniuses, but... That's so
they
weird.
just assume that does exist.
Oh, I see. So it's saying that, yeah, maybe you're, it's...
But it's still at least. It's not like...
Yeah, at least some hard worker get very good grades.
It's at least some. It's not like...
Yeah, like, it has to be, right? Did you talk to your teacher about this?
No, not yet. I
you should
go over this.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, like what he's saying is that his answer?
I don't know if it's his answer or from the book.
Yeah, I would think that that's a possibility, but then this could be a possibility too, because it's at least some hard workers. It didn't say all hard workers get very good grades. You should you should ask your teacher, because I kind of agree with you that, yeah, there's a possibility that idle people can get good grades, but I mean, this one sounds a lot more likely that at least there are some hard workers out of all this classroom full of people. I would say, yeah, check that one to ask. Let's write that down. Maybe you can say...
Oh, I have him next class, so I know.
Oh, you have him? Okay. So yeah, ask him number 16. Okay. And then what's the next one? 18?
Yeah, I understand, because this is all.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
So this one was what we were having trouble with.
Yeah, 18 is all.
Vegetarians are
and this is some, right? Some vegetarians. So I get, why it's...
Yeah. See, yeah, that's why I was thinking too, because it's like, if one was all, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But it's just some and some, so it's like, wouldn't answer be true when it says at least some workers are? Yeah, that one I think I'm really confused. Okay. Anything else you got on? Number 10? This one? Okay. Usually freshmen do better work than seniors in Professor Cohen's course on English literature. Thus, because Harold is a freshman and his brother is a senior, we should expect Harold's work in the course to be better than his brother's. Okay, why don't we write that one out? Okay. Usually, huh? Okay, so usually freshmen do better work.
Oh.
Okay. I'll read it to you. Better work than seniors in Professor Cohen's course.
How do you spell
Cohen? C-O.
Oh, C.
Yeah, C-O-H-E-N.
Just say Professor C.
Yeah, Professor C's English Lit class. Okay, and then it says, because Harold is a freshman and his brother is a senior, we should expect Harold's work is better. Harold is a freshman, his brother's a senior.
Now, if it's like this, right?
And then the conclusion is, we should expect Harold's work in the course to be better than his brother's.
How do you spell Harold?
Harold, H-A-R-O-L-D.
L-E-D?
H-A-R-O-L-D. Harold.
Harold
Will do better work than his brother.
-4, -5.
And then here you said it's non-deductively unsuccessful. Just because you're on the... Okay.
4 and below.
Okay, here we go. So this is another non-deductive one that we were doing. And non-deductively it is success because it is not clear what relevance their being brothers has. So this is a simple statistical induction.
So the lurking variable
Would be from negative to B.
is pretty much because they're brothers. That means they can connect, like saying, "Hey, give me your homework and I can copy it from you."
Let me see. Is that what it says? Oh, I'm so sorry.
How many like 4 then
Actually, it says it has nothing to do with that, right?
This is the smallest one first and then the big one.
Like, what is the answer turning?
Okay, it's not clear what relevance them being brothers has. So this is just a simple statistical.
Usually the small number first and then it's like the line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like them being brothers have nothing to do
So
with it.
what?
Yeah. So Harold is a freshman, and usually freshmen do better job in this class than seniors. So it's just basically being that non-deductive one, a non-deductive reasoning, saying like, oh, because he's a freshman, most likely he'll do a better job than a senior, which is his brother. But it's, again, remember non-deductive reasoning is not supposed to be valid. If anything, another factor gets into play, like it can just, it might not work. It's that reasoning that we don't like.
So because they're brothers,
That has nothing to do with it, it says. Because it's the only thing that matters is that Harold's a freshman and his brother's a senior. Because if you...
but this is equal to freshman and senior.
Yeah. That's why. It says usually freshmen do better work than seniors in Professor Cohen's class, right? And Harold's a freshman and his brother's a senior. So non-deductively, just kind of making it sound like probably Harold will do a better job than his brother because he's a freshman.
Oh wait, is this valid?
Yeah, it's supposed to be valid. You said it's non-deductively unsuccessful.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, here we just have to go with like the statistics and be like, yeah, well, according to the experience, usually freshmen do a better job. So therefore, Harold probably will do a better job.
So in this exercise, pretty much assuming this is correct,
Yeah.
will this be correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of bad because
But again, if anything changes, the conclusion can change. That's the thing about non-deductive reasoning. Because the truth is very relevant in this case, right? Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, it's so confusing, I'm sorry.
I don't know, like sometimes he said, oh, don't put in
and you just do this.
other stuff in, and sometimes he
What do you mean?
like don't assume stuff. And sometimes he say assume stuff.
It's a difficult subject. Yeah, that's interesting, huh? It's like when do you put in your assumption and when do you not? Yeah. Okay, so why don't we then go on to English. Alrighty. Sorry about that. So what are we doing with English?
So for we're about to get into research papers.
Okay. Okay. So can I look at the prompt?
Demonstrate how they got here.
She just said, oh, do whatever topic you like to do, form a question, and like do a research paper.
Okay.
I feel like
research paper and how long?
I feel like in the past I told
8 to 10 pages. And when's it due?
I guess I teach
May?
math.
Oh, so far away. Okay. It'd be nice if you have a prompt, like a what topics. See if you can look on the
theorize
highlight.
how this is happening and what's going on, and then they give you the easy the equation. This is the format of actually getting the equation or the formula. That's how you know.
Oh, this is
explain how they got
the
formula.
11
Oh,
page.
annotated bibliography. Can you do that
Most
one?
science people don't actually.
Well, there's a lot of steps into this, so when you do annotate,
You understand how they got it.
outline,
Same thing with sometimes the physics. They tell you how they got a forcible section.
Peer review,
revision,
Yeah.
Same thing.
paper presentation.
They always give you the hard part.
I found that out more of I think I prefer like easy part than hard part. But that is different one.
Yeah. But generally most of the
Paper
rest
studies I rarely. Okay. No less than 8 pages, include at
Although
least 10 reference
although that,
page.
I don't need
Central
that.
research question and
for
present this
how they
question.
did it.
Subheadings.
I'm
So
I'm
what
gonna
topic
take,
have you?
calculus. Long-term summer.
Ah.
I mean,
Already set up?
I kind of already did that for my senior thesis, senior year.
I just want to finish calculus, then I'm just like.
Oh, what did you do?
I did like bystander, but my form of question was so wrong. It went the other way.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it?
How does bystander effect have to do with survival if it is?
Oh.
But it doesn't.
Calculus, I'm just gonna like try to do everything.
Okay. But here,
try to do.
she said any topic is
Well, it would be
okay.
far from me. From my.
I already have some.
From me.
I mean, we did two class quizzes about, and we did an exercise forming what we're gonna do, what's our interest, and what we're gonna do. And my first one was like about cancer, but I don't know. I feel like that's too much.
Cancer? But what about cancer?
Yeah,
What
like
I did.
I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Cancer. So my second one is the view of physical appearance, like body image towards society.
Oh, that's more specific. That's good. So you wanted to women's.
Like yeah, I already have some thoughts on it.
Okay, so tell me.
For example, Korea.
Plastic surgery. Yeah. Does it have to be American culture, or it can be anything? Okay.
Plastic surgery, like teenage. I guess what I'm trying to aim towards is teenage girls,
Teenage girls in Korea.
or like preteen to teenage.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And, so because plastic surgery are everywhere in Korea, and even like pop stars do plastic surgery, they pretty much encourage girls to have their face done or their body done. Like, for example, if you graduate, they'll have a nose job. Like, that's the common thing there.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, it's, I don't know what we do here, but it's different.
Yeah. Standard of beauty is so different. Okay. And so, what do you think that you want to argue through that research?
Inner beauty is very
Oh yeah.
matter on the color.
Okay. That's one message.
Because
that you
I'm
can-
trying to convey with the past fashion, like 50s, 70s, 70s, their clothes are all like over. They're not like bikinis, but they're like.
Are you trying to do like an American like perception? How they do like 50s, 60s when they were like model girls?
I don't know, like
I think it can be tight.
there's a lot of questions, but like I guess I'm just trying to narrow it down.
Okay, okay. How body image affect do you think you'll be able to find like plastic surgery like articles about Korea?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you like to relate that to America? I mean, you have to think about your audience, right? Your audience will be somewhat used to the American way of thinking. In America, they do some plastic surgery, but it's not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So how do you intend to target that audience? What if they say, oh, but that's only happening in Korea?
In this case,
We don't do that in America.
If you're a celebrity,
Okay. Okay.
is during plastic surgery, would you do plastic surgery?
What if they say no? Not really. Does it affect us? Not really. Or maybe you can use that as
Yes, it does. It provides social pressure.
Okay, so you want to focus on body image and social pressure, but maybe you want to do it in a, like maybe at first start out with something like, you know, relevant like America, and then you can say like in other cultures, you can bring other cultures of how women are just as pressured to the point where they have to change their body image, right?
Body image.
And like South America too, they have a huge plastic surgery market down there. So
For us here, it's more like makeup.
okay, that's great.
Heavy makeup and like cleavage.
Yeah, like their body has to be like certain way. Okay, so how about we focus on body image and societal pressure.
Can you kind of put it in the outline version?
Yeah, let me actually, I'm gonna start here, okay?
All these are gonna be on
You
the
can write it down.
I'm just gonna.
So,
I'm not sure how to. I'm not sure how to.
I think the overarching topic should be something like
Try, if you have 3 different roles, do 2 things.
your body image and societal pressure.
In order to understand what's going on, right?
And I think that we should start out with America and then branch out to maybe other countries where it's getting very severe. So we can like kind of reflect on it and be like, okay, well, are we getting to that stage or are we not? You know, like what is, you know, so we can compare. Okay, so here in America it's a makeup. Makeup. In terms of body, what kind of bodies are we modeling?